Hey everyone, Mekkah here. Famitsu, a Japanese video game magazine, gave us some new information on Fire Emblem Three Hopes. I went over this info live on stream last Saturday, but I didn't want to withhold this from people who don't watch my streams, so I thought I'd upload this as a separate video on this Monday, which is usually my day off anyway. So, enjoy! Because Famitsu elaborated on the news flash that we got earlier this week, or like last week with the trailer. Was it last week? I think it was a couple weeks ago already. And they showed a couple more things that we didn't know yet, that we do not know. And I would like to go over them live. This is different from what I did before, where I made like a video completely just discuss the news and my thoughts on them. I was like, you know what? If I do it live, first of all, I get some interaction with you guys, and if I miss something stupid, which happens to me a lot, I can correct myself on the spot, and that way, you know, we can get some interaction going. And also, it's just trying something new, and this way I won't have to edit a whole new video for it. So that's the other advantage. And then after we're done with the news, I'll play some Fire Emblem Warriors. I have one more history map that I gotta beat. I probably won't even be able to beat the entire map this stream. It's the Nordheim Market place, where Linda is featured, I think. And I have Tharja all ready to go. She's like 89 kills. So yeah, we're gonna talk some Three Hopes first. Let me get the news on here first. So what I'm gonna be basing myself off is this article on serenusforest.net, which is a very good resource site. I meme on it every now and then, but they do have like good articles like this where they not only show what was revealed, but they also post their thoughts on English. And I'd also like to credit Black Kite on Twitter. You can see their handle on the screen right here if you're interested. They apparently translated the revelations that we got. So what I'll be doing is I'll be reading over them and reading them out for you guys and giving my thoughts as we go along. And if I miss any details that are important, please let me know, and I'll look into it a little bit further. Is that all good with everybody? I hope that's all good with everybody, because we go in. So what we got first is basically Famitsu, Japanese magazine about video games, I believe, or media in general maybe, revealed some more tidbits on Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. Revelations? No. Okay. Before we get into revelations, let's continue with Three Hopes real quick, right? So these are screenshots. I'm just going to show them real briefly, but I think these are all just screenshots from the trailer as far as I can tell. I don't think there's any new information in these images themselves. Of course, they look quite good. They're better quality than the trailer, I think. Perhaps because they were like spliced up a little bit for the magazine. But I think all these visuals seem familiar to me, so I'm not going to go over them too badly. What we do have is what Black Kite said here. In FE Warriors 3 houses, each character will have their own preferred class, and some of these will be exclusive to that character. Examples: Shez is Flugel, the exclusive class. That's a dual-wielding class. That's why you got the two swords. Hubert, Dark Mage, the Du Armored Knight, and Hilda, Brigand. Now, generally in Fire Emblem language, preferred means exclusive. So you got, like, for example, the Rapier in Eliwood in FE7. That's his exclusive weapon. Only he can use it. So that means that presumably these units can sometimes only have that class. I'm assuming that, for example, Hilda being a Brigand, if you play Three Houses, you know that's kind of unlikely, because, you know, Brigand is kind of like the universal axe class in that one, for example. Like, everyone can be a Brigand. So it seems like in that way they're departing from Three Houses, but we don't know how many classes will be exclusive. We don't know exactly who's going to have how many exclusive classes. So I said in my last video about Three Hopes that I was a little worried that it would take away a lot of exclusivity about the characters, because the unique movesets the character have really change the way you play that game. I can only, if I want a Wyvern Rider, I have two choices. I can use Camilla or I can use Minerva. So if I want one of their utilities, I have to field one of them. It might sound a bit strange that I like that you're limited to those characters if you want a Wyvern Rider, but I think that gives the player incentives to try out different characters and different classes, and I think it also adds more uniqueness to the classes. One response that someone gave, I think, was that, well, isn't Warriors mostly known for having clones? And yeah, a lot of classes have multiple characters representing them, and that's called a clone. Which, I mean, I wish it wasn't that way, but at least that way more characters get in with less resources used, so I can't completely hate it. And this reclassing system, I'm not exactly vibing with it, but the fact that there's personal classes for some units, I think is an improvement over it. I still prefer no reclassing personally, but I think this is better than what I thought was going to be, which is everyone can reclass to everything, kind of like in Three Houses. Tweet only means only Flugel. Is it Flugel or Flugel? Because Terminus says Flugel in chat, but in this tweet it's called Flugel. Oh, that one is exclusive. The rest is not. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair thing to note. See, this is why we're doing it live, so you guys can point that out. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. So here's how I read it, right? So Flugel's exclusive to Ches, which, you know, that's good. It's a lord. And then you got the others. You got, for example, Hubert prefers being a dark mage, but it's not necessarily exclusive to him. So someone else can be a dark mage. So what I said earlier about Hilda, I guess it applies, but it was just stupid of me to assume that it would was in any way implied to be your exclusive class. What do you think about Hubert? The fact that he prefers to be a dark mage over other classes and is better in that class, I think it's an improvement because it gives you an incentive to use units in certain classes, and that way you're prompted a little bit more to try out that specific class with that unit. It gives a unit a bit of personality, I think, if they are that class. It's the same reason why I think, for example, the GBA characters are a bit more flashed out because of their personal classes, the classes that they have. You know, Isidore is a paladin, not an armor knight or what's it called, a falcon knight or whatever. She's a paladin. That's like part of her thing. Whereas in like Shadow Dragon, for example, units can reclass freely, and I like that distinction. And I like that in Warriors too. So having a bit more preference that way is good. But on the other hand, you have the same kind of prompting in Three Houses, where units have certain talents and certain banes, you know, boons and banes, and like their hidden talents as well. What are they called? Like the 3-star system, where you tutor a unit 9 times and it becomes a boon for them. I forgot what it's called. You usually call it hidden talents. I like those, but I think they're still not super interesting because in the end what it turns out to be is you can make a unit their personal preferred class and just go along with their boons, and that's all fine. Or you can work harder and make them something else, and then you just kind of get an inferior copy to another character because they perform worse. Like, you can technically make a Scythia an Armor Knight, which is just kind of... it just takes longer to get to it. It usually just takes more busy work to make Lysithea that. Budding talent, exactly. Thank you, Arcolt. It just takes more work to get there, and it feels worse somehow. It's like, you get a couple funny like moments out of it. It's like, haha, Lysithea's an Armor Knight, and it kind of ends there for me. That's my personal preference. I do like the thought you can avoid playing classes you don't like to playstyle off while not avoiding character themselves. Yeah, it gives a bit of flexibility. Like, it's not exclusively a bad thing, I think. But what I just said, I think, is more important to me than being able to avoid certain characters. Because for me, when I got into Warriors, for example, one of the biggest criticisms for Fire Emblem Warriors, the original one, is that the roster was very limited. So you only had Fates, Awakening, and Shadow Dragon characters, basically. And then Celica and Lyn were in as well. Those were the only characters you could play as. And that's like a widely shared criticism. Like, I agree with it. But, you know, I still like Warriors enough to keep playing it despite the cast not being my favorite. So I kept playing, and I learned to enjoy playing with characters like Camilla and Chrom and Lucina and all these other characters that I generally don't really care for in the mainline games. But in Warriors, I just kind of enjoyed it. So I was like, wait, this is actually kind of fun. Like, I kind of like Camilla more. I kind of like Roma more now, even though these are not my favorite characters by any long shot. I like them more now because of Warriors. So, I don't know. It's kind of a two-sided coin for me. Anyway, we can return to this topic later. I would like to move on because, you know, if we talk about this topic exclusively forever, we're not going to be playing any Warriors today. You know, I want to avoid that. I'm glad my thumbnail worked on you, Sarah. Okay. Okay. This next bit, FE Warriors 3 Houses, 3 Hopes characters will have personal skills, and apparently attack elements will come into play. Hubert has Dark Element magic stabs, while Hilda can launch Thunder Element attacks. Meanwhile, the Armored Knight class can reduce damage received by nearby allies. So a lot to go on here, like basically 4 sentences with 4 revelations. The personal skills bit, let me go over real quick how personal skills work in other titles, right? So in Fates, for example, I think that basically introduced personal skills, and it was a really good thing. It made characters more unique, which, like I said before, I think is a huge improvement generally. The fact that characters have something that makes them different, especially in a game where you can reclass, these personal skills can be very interesting. Something like, for example, Lisa's skill in Fates, Lily's Poise, increases your damage output of adjacent allies by 1, and I think it decreases their damage taken by 3. Something like that. Stuff like that just makes characters more unique. It makes them more fun to experiment with. It gives you a reason to use different characters, even if you have like the class covered already, basically, which in reclassing you basically already do. So I like those a lot generally. In Warriors, characters do have their own personal skills. For example, Minerva has Iota Shield, which makes her immune to effective damage. Martha's Paragon, so he gains HP faster. You need to unlock these, but you do get them for fairly cheap, basically. And then what you can also do, you can support characters, and then you unlock a kind of a skill tree where you can unlock these skills that they have supports with for other characters. So for example, if a character has a support with Marth, they need like a C support with him and then some material, and they can get Paragon as well. So in that way, they're not really personal skills, but the characters that start with them get the skills for less resources, basically. So they're not quite personal. And I'm wondering if that's going to be here like too, because sure, Black Kite is saying there will be personal skills. I haven't been able to verify the source on like how personal they are. If I personally prefer them to be completely unique. I prefer them to be like, if Hubert has a skill, like let's say Hubert has his 3 houses skill, I'd hope that's just unique to Hubert, and that way you're incentivized to use characters for their skill, and you de-incentivize the whole reclassing system, basically. That's what I would like. But if they can be inherited the way I just described for Warriors 1, I'm kind of fine with that too. Like, I don't think skills are super interesting. Generally, the way skills have been in Fire Emblem, there are a couple skills that are way better than the rest. If you think of like Fates, for example, the Wyvern and Cavalier tree are by far the best. So skills like Elbow Room, Defender from the Paladin tree, and then for the Wyverns like Lunge, Trample, stuff like that is really, really good. So in that sense, I don't know if a skill system is super interesting either way. What's up, Chaos Amber? A little late to the Tharta clickbait. Dang, I know, right? Anyway, yeah, that's what I think of the skills. I don't know how good these will be. Generally, the skills, you just kind of stack the best in. Like in Warriors 1, for example, you put Luna and Astra and Lethality on pretty much everyone you want to, because they increase damage output in a very reliable amount. So, you know, that way it's very good. And you don't really care about the other skills. So, I don't know, the skill system at some point, we'll figure out what the best skills are, and they'll just go on everyone. That's kind of the way it goes. Okay, next up, apparently attack elements will come into play, and Hubert has a dark element stabs, while Hilda can launch thunder element attacks. So these hint at some kind of weapon triangle-like interaction between their attacks. Like, it sounds like elements, not like... I don't know if they're saying that they actually interact like a weapon triangle, or if they're just like talking about the way it looks, because like, for example, Hilda here is using a thunder-like strike, and here, I think this is the duo, or the duo is debuffing people. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then Hubert's like dark element. I don't know if they really mean to say that they're about weapon triangle. The element system from Warriors 1. Well, I'm not familiar with that. Like Fire Emblem Warriors, I should mention, this is the only Warriors game I've played. The only, I think they're called Mosu games. The only one I've played. I've got into that genre through that exclusively. I haven't played any others. So, Legacy, if you wouldn't mind explaining if that's a weapon triangle-like thing or if it's something else entirely, that would be very helpful. Anyway, let me go into this little bit right quick. So meanwhile, the Armor Knight class can reduce damage received by nearby allies. So this is something that wasn't really in Fire Emblem Warriors 1, where you could like debuff your allies. And it seems to be way more of this coming up, where they add a lot of stat changes and buffs and debuffs to your allies and yourself, probably, through like battalions and everything. Which, yeah, Legacy, please explain it in chat. I'll read it in a little bit while I go on this tangent here about debuffing. I'm not sure what to think of this. It'll be exciting to have more strategic things, because honestly, Warriors games could use a bit more thought. Like, the whole idea, I think, of Fire Emblem Warriors is that it combines the sort of mindless hack and slash gameplay with some, like, tactical strategic elements. I can never really know the difference between the two. So, the idea is that you, for example, you match up people with weapon triangle advantage, or you use units that are effective against armors against armored enemies, or you have a unit that's like particularly good at crowd clearing, clear crowds, and a unit that's really good at taking forts to take forts. Stuff like that is generally the idea. Doesn't always work effectively, but that's the general gist of what I get from the advertising for these games. And this kind of mechanic can add to it. It can also really trivialize the game if you can use an Armor Knight to just buff someone to the point where they barely take any damage, and you kind of find a way to exploit that. It kind of turns it back into a mindless thing. So, and this goes for a lot of things. I think this depends on how they execute it. It could be very good, it could be very interesting, it could also be very annoying. It could be very bad. If enemies use it against you, it could make the game very tedious if it takes forever to kill an enemy because they've been buffed and debuffed. So, I don't know, let me know what you think. From what I can see on the screenshot, it looks like an area-based thing that he's doing on these on this group here. So if there's like any allies within this range, then maybe they get buffed as well. At least I'm assuming this is the area effect of his defense buff. Which, come to think of it, it's a little bit strange, because you're usually playing from the perspective of one character and everyone else is controlled by the AI. I guess what you can do is like make them move towards the do with the AI, use the debuff, and then switch the other characters and have them use the defense buff to their advantage. Because the AI probably can't really take advantage of this buff very well, unless they're maybe defending your base. In that case, it could also be interesting. Or you can have the AI use the defense debuff on you, so this could make you do a very good AI-controlled character. And then you say you're using Dimitri, you can just defense buff him with the AI to do, and you just go nuts with Dimitri. That's also possible. Defense in general, not really the best offense in Warriors. Generally, if you're good enough or you're like high level enough, you don't really need a buff to your defenses to get through enemies. Generally, it's about killing enemies because there's no reason to get attacked. Like you can dodge pretty much every attack you see in Fire Emblem Warriors 1 if you're good enough. I'm not saying I'm good enough, but generally you don't really need bulk all that much. So I don't know if this is a good one, but if there's more buffs like this from other classes, it could be very potent. Let me see. Okay, so I see the elements thing is still being explained in chat, so let me move on to the next tweet real quick. FE Fire Warriors 3 hopes characters can learn new combat arts and magic by raising the class level, but each character will have a different learn set even in the same class. So kind of like the spell system from Shadows of Valentia, and also the spell system of 3 houses too, where they have a different learn set, you know, depending on who they are, which again diversifies characters beyond their class, so in that way it's better. No speedy, I don't think there was any new characters confirmed. There might be like one character that was like sort of confirmed before that's now confirmed in. I don't know, we'll see in a little bit, but I don't think there's an actual new confirmation of a character. I do think at some point they'll start doing trailers that confirm new characters. They did that for Fire Emblem Warriors 1, where like 1 by 1 or maybe 2 by 2 they released trailers for new characters that were going to be in, which, I mean, right now we're in April, the game comes out in June. I would be very surprised if in May they wouldn't do a lot of these trailers, which I'll be on the lookout for. Monica confirmed. Yeah, but she's already confirmed to be in, so I guess maybe she's confirmed playable. That's about it, isn't it? Let me see. Oh, the light elements explanation is here. Let me read it out real quick for you guys, because the whole chat isn't on screen. So Legacy Tag says, thank you. Water did damage over time to enemies. There's 5 elements. Water did damage over time to enemies. Light did more damage to giant groups of enemies. Dark did a lot more damage to small groups of enemies. And Thunder does damage while enemies are airborne. And Fire. Fire exploded enemies when they hit the ground. Okay, I'm assuming the chat message was too long to fit in one box there. Okay, so they have different specialties. So rather than like, am I right in assuming that they're not actually a weapon triangle in and of themselves? So, because the weapon triangle was pretty important in Fire Emblem Warriors 1. So I think that will probably return as well. So I'm guessing, I don't know, you can't really make a conclusion on those things from this screenshot of like Hubert and Hilda hitting enemies. This is just something we'll have to see before we can draw any conclusion of it, I think. I don't think there's any point in speculating exactly how that will work. It could be like that, but maybe not. Let's see. Or was I? Alright, I was talking about the skill learn sets. Yeah, these differentiate between characters, and I like that a lot. I don't know what else there is to say. I am afraid of characters becoming a bit too one-sided, a bit too universal, so hopefully this will fix that. The mag, which I think stands for magazine, also confirmed that the cost will take points from weapon durability. There's no further details on the matter. So that's how 3 Houses does combat arts, which I thought in 3 Houses wasn't very interesting because you could repair weapons, buy new weapons almost infinitely at some point in the game. And even for the early game, like you use combat arts whenever you needed to. I generally think that combat arts management in 3 Houses, or rather the skill slot management, combat arts slot management, everything management wise in 3 Houses, I think there was too much busy work. I went to that in my last video. There was, I think there was just too much stuff between battles. I know a lot of people said they liked the monastery system in 3 Houses, and I liked it too when I first played the game for like the first half of it. But at some point I grew tired of it. Of course, everyone has a different kind of tolerance and preference for this one, so I don't blame anyone for liking it. I just think personally, I want the management to be... For me, it's satisfying if I have to do a little bit to maximize my performance, but not if the game puts so much busy work in that I'm spending a lot of time in menus that I could be spent battling. Like if I'm doing stuff that I would rather not be doing, then at that point I become bored with the game. If it becomes like not respectful of my time. If you think of like take for example the motivation system of 3 Houses, right, which seems to be in this game too. That motivation system has no purpose in and of itself. Not really. Like your characters, you can train them, you can tutor them, and at some point they get tired, and then you need to go to the monastery, you feed them, and they get untired again. You need to redo it. If you just take that loop out of the game, the fact that they get tired and the fact that they get, you know, motivated by the meals, you don't really lose anything substantial, I think. Like, sure, in the early game, you can't make everyone, like, fed because you don't have enough professional points, and some people will be too tired to be tutored, but that's only really a problem in the early game, and after that it becomes kind of a non-issue, because you only have so many activity points anyway, so you can't always tutor everyone anyway. So that little loop where they get tired and you get them fed again, I think it's not very interesting, and I hope it's not in Warriors, but since the meal system is there, I'm kind of afraid that it is. And then the other problem with it was that the cutscenes could not be skipped. So they said the same-ish voice lines every time they went to eating dinner with their friend or whatever. And after 3 times, you've heard the voice line. You just want to move on, but you can't skip it. You can skip almost everything in these games. You can skip entire cutscenes just by pressing start, but you couldn't skip these, which I think is a very, very bad idea. So I really hope you can skip all the scenes. And honestly, I hope there's a button that you can just skip it by default. Because if you still have to mash start to skip it, that's still very annoying. So please give us some quality of life there. Okay. Anyway, I don't know how interesting this will be. We can take a quick look at the screenshot, but I think we've seen most of this. It doesn't fit entirely on the screen, but I pinned the link to the Twitter and the Transforce article in the pinned comments, so you can see it there as well. But yeah, we can see that Chez has all these different skills, and he has all these different spells that he can use. And you can see a bit of a range in them, which I think is interesting. It looks like the Gambit's range a little bit. Like the way that a Gambit range would be displayed in the menu. It's like cooldown time, durability cost, and everything. We don't know exactly how it works. I think it's nice that they're at least transparent about the range of this attack, for example, because in Warriors 1, you just kind of have to figure it out by trial and error, like what will this hit if I use it, and just kind of look at the animations and see which enemies die. So now we actually have information on that, which I think is cool. I wish this might small instead said like, hey, this does different damage. Like, just be transparent about the whole damage formula if you're going to be putting this info in my opinion. Like, there's no reason to just say small or 1. Like, why make it small, medium, large, where you can make it just, you know, might 17, for example. But we'll see. Okay, let's move on to the next little bit. If you 3 whatever battalion endurance will deplete every time the leading character takes damage. If it goes to 0, the buff effect will be gone for the remainder of battle, but they will be replenished in the next battle. I gotta say, so far I'm pretty happy that they're just kind of replicating things from 3 houses, so that it's very clear that the game references 3 houses with a lot of mechanics, which I think is interesting. I don't hope they copy everything from 3 houses, but for example, this part I have no real issue with. In 3 houses, beyond a certain point, your battalion generally stays intact. You don't really have to worry about it going to nothing. When a battle is over, you pay a minimal amount of money to repair it, which is like, it's busy work again. It's not very interesting. So I don't hate this part because most of it was automatic. Like, that's the great thing about, the one great thing they automized in 3 houses was battalion reparations. So at least they got that part right. I hope they will do that too. But yeah, they will replenish for next battle, blah, blah, blah. And you can give yourself a battalion. It doesn't really say what the stats given by this battalion is. It just says, okay, I want to assign this one. They do seem to have ranks. Like, these are E rank battalions, and these are D rank battalions. So kind of like a 3 houses, there's probably some kind of authority level the characters have. You can see one here. Apparently Chez has B rank authority. This probably means you have to train in like authority, which, I mean, it adds differentiation between characters, so that's why I like it. But it also implies more busy work in training your authority. So in that sense, I don't like it very much. We'll see how it turns out. A lot of these things, I can speculate these kind of things, but a lot of it will come down to execution, I think. Like, how well does it flow? How much of your time does it waste? And how satisfying is it to level it up over the course of the game? Because I think almost these things usually feel very satisfying at first when you're just leveling up everything. It's like, oh, I got authority rank, and I got weapon rank up, and I mastered a class, and I got a support rank. But at some point, you get tired of seeing the meters go up, and you just want to, you know, get on with the game, in my opinion. So, depends on execution, depends how fast it goes. Maybe you can skip it. Fire Emblem Warriors 1, you have a level up screen whenever you level up in battle, but you can turn it off. You can just make it, okay, don't show this to me during the battle, and you just turn it off and it's not there. I hope something like that is in this game too, just as an option. Generally, for players, I think more options is good. Less options is bad. What else do we got here? Empire Duelists, Talented Duelists, Fight the Empire, Hired 1. Resist Axes level 2. Grants 1 tier greater advantage against enemies equipped with axes. Reduces damage from them by 45%. That's very significant, especially for like what looks like an early game battalion. It's like D rank level 2, and you just get like half damage from them. So Warriors 1 also has reduction like this, but it's not on battalions. It's like on a skill tree. You can go into the like camp and just be like, okay, I want this character. Oh, right, my music stops. Let me restart it. There's the music again. Anyway, Warriors has this, but in the skill tree, and you just pay resources to activate on certain characters. It's kind of busy work, but it's not too bad. And here you just get it on a battalion. This is a very significant damage debuff, assuming you take enough damage for this to be relevant. Chaz's ROM hack energy in general, he for sure does. Or they for sure do, I should say, because they could be a girl. But yeah, this is interesting. I wonder how good this will be. Also because I presume you can only take one battalion battle, right? So if you see a lot of axes, you can put this on and you just barely take any damage to begin with. That seems almost too good, but but enemies could have battalions too, so that could kind of even it out. Maybe there's battalions that boost your damage output rather than reducing the damage output from enemies, so maybe that will even it out. If it goes like that, I would expect the offensive battalions to be way better, because again, the best defense is a good offense in Warriors, at least in Warriors 1. Alright, character support levels confirmed in FE3. Hopes, other than support conversations, they will also add more to stat buffs from attaching adjutants. Okay, some of the game's subquests will reward additional amounts of interaction and training sessions given a turn. Yeah, this is the part, especially this is the part that makes me think it's busy work. This is the part that I don't think I like a whole lot. Spending time in a cutscene to build your supports, spend activity points to do this training thing. It seems like busy work. Like, if you want to give me limited resources to train, you could do that through a menu and it will work just fine. Doing it this way just makes it tedious. So hopefully there's at least a menu option that makes it faster or automatic. Because if this is the case, if it's like this, I don't know. It could be fun for a bit, but I think at some point it will wear on me. So yeah, hopefully a skip button. Think of like Arena. Like, this reminds me of the training grounds in Three Houses, right? Where you can go into the little arena area and you can like go talk to the dude in the middle and you just get a couple battles. You can skip those battles with a start button press, but you still have to do a bunch of like button mashing to get through. It still takes quite a while to get through a single round. I hope they kind of don't do that. And adjutants work. I actually think they implement adjutants correctly from what I can see, because it's basically how it is in Three Houses. 2 characters pair up and then 1 guy is in the back. I don't like the adjutant system that much in Three Hopes or in Three Houses, because it kind of just takes the character off the field. You barely see that they're there, and I just kind of wish we got more unit slots. And it's like, I wish we just got the field this character instead of having them in the back and you just kind of rush the enemy along with your battalions whenever you use a gambit. And that's about it. It's a fun way to build supports, I guess, if they're like being paired up. Warriors 1 has the awakening system, basically, and it looks like they'll have something like it here. Like we saw in the trailer that like characters pair up and fight alongside each other, which makes for like interesting Mosu specials and everything. Hey, what's up, Cole? What's up, bro? I can't really say a whole lot based on that, but it makes sense that they add more stat buffs. So it's kind of like Awakening and Fates pair up, where the more support level you have with the character, the stronger your attacks and everything will be, the stronger the bonuses will be. We'll see how it pans out, though. I can't say a whole lot. Don't forget to zoom in Caspar's father's loincloth. I too read Reddit. What else we got? The 3 Hopes scene with Lauren shows how characters can be sent to do jobs to earn more items and improve support between participants. There are several kinds of jobs, and each character will have a different job they excel at. And we have the screenshot of Lawrence saying something to Cloud, which to me this reads a lot like one of those dinner conversations, one of those like having a meal together conversations where they have a custom thing where to talk to each other. Like Lawrence specifically addressing Claude in this one, and they're like being all sassy with each other. And this is where I'm like, this looks like a lot of busy work to me, and I don't like that a whole lot. Like, you can send 2 people together to do a certain job and they get support points. Like, that's sure, I guess. But is that really make the game more fun after you do it 20 more times? That's what I'm a little scared about. At the same time, it looks like a new kind of job, like they're going to the marketplace together, it looks like, to buy stuff, and then Shez is just digging in his chest like, God, just get me out of here, bro. So at least it's something different from the monastery from Three Houses. Question is, how long will it be fun for? I also don't see a skip button. I see auto advance, I see hide UI, I see view log, but I don't see skip. I see next, but that's probably just the next line. You like number go up? I like number go up too, but do you like number go up slowly with a forced cutscene? Yeah, exactly. Just let me skip the cutscene. And I'm real worried that, like, if there's no start to skip here, there's a similar one for the meals here. Let me see what they say about this one. The 3 Hopes scene with Mercedes shows how Shez can invite 2 other characters for a meal. Each meal type will have a different buff effect. Other than raising support, the meals will also improve morale that would let characters deal more damage in battles. So it's kind of like the meals from Fates, where you have like one person in the kitchen and they can cook your food, and then you pick out a certain type of food and whatever, depending on what. It's kind of like a combination of the 2 cafeteria options basically in Three Houses too. You know, you pick certain food and you'll get a buff based on it, but you also have the eating together option that increases their motivation. I guess it looks like the motivation meal, but the mechanic looks more like the cooking together basically. Yeah, Mercedes Longhair was like the first leak that we got. We've discussed that at length, Cinnamel High, so I'm not going to go over Mercedes Hair. I do like new designs in general, though. I'm glad that we get different portraits after the ones that we've seen so often. But it looks like it's basically the Fate / Cooking Together mechanic, but you can invite more people and they also support together. Whereas the Cooking Together mechanic in Three Houses only raised support with the main character, Byleth. So I guess it's like kind of a combination of them. Seeing this, in a way, makes me happy because it means we won't have a motivation thing to worry about. Like, if there's no motivation meters, there's nothing about using a meal to regain your motivation after a long day of tutoring. That skips some of the... I know I've said the word busy work a lot, but it skips a lot of the tedious busy work that we've had so far. So, I'm happy about that. Not happy about no skip button visible on the screen. Please implement a skip button. This is very important. And buffing stats in battle through this mechanic depends on the implementation. I can't really say a whole lot about that. Depends on the implementation, right? Like, if it makes no big difference on the battlefield, sure. If it's like a player-only buff, is it really great? Like, what I'm worried about, right, is that a three hopes battle, you have to like go through a whole lot of camp things to optimize your battle every single time. I guess what it could do that would help. Warriors has a mechanic called blessings, where you can apply a certain blessing, and for example, an attack buff. You give him a bunch of materials in exchange to give you an attack buff for the entire battle, and it lasts for one battle, then it wears off. So if you're having trouble dealing enough damage to enemies, you can give yourself a blessing and do more damage. Then what you can do, you could turn on a button in the settings menu to always apply that blessing automatically, which means you'll generally run out of material at some point if you don't keep an eye on it. It's like having an automatic write-off of your credit card that goes off every time you enter a battle, and the game doesn't notify you about it, because the whole idea is to not waste your time. So when you have this, what you could maybe do, hopefully, is make it automatically go for a meal with these two characters, for example, and then this certain type of food, and you'll always get a strength buff, for example. You could do that. I don't want to say I have no faith in them to implement this, but, you know, it could happen. You know, in Warriors 1, they had something similar to this. So let's have some hopes here that they'll do something like that. Yeah, like a default prep, exactly. So preps and the menu AI in Warriors is one of the biggest issues with the game. It takes a long time to get ready for a battle compared to how little work it could be if they just gave you like a default prep. Like, just let me feel Sakura and Byleth to every battle, whatever you want to call it. Always have this meal, always give them this battalion, always repair their battalions beforehand, between every battle, just have an automatic round through the camp. Something like that to auto set the way I want to do it with minimal hassle on my part. That would be ideal for me. Like, I'm fine with having all these little micromanagement things, especially if you can have like a profile set up for certain settings. Like, maybe I have a support grind profile that maximizes the support points I want to grind. Because that way, grinding doesn't become so tedious. You know, I don't mind a little bit of grind, but the more smooth you can make it, the less time I have to do repetitive actions, the better. Longer prep, the shorter the battle. It's satisfying to stomp a map, but at the same time, it's sort of this double-edged sword. Yeah, exactly. I think, hopefully, I've tried to make this clear before, but hopefully I can make it a little bit clearer again for those who don't think I like preps. I think it's satisfying to have preparations for a battle that pan out well. I had some troublesome battles where a little bit of a change to my preps made a big impact on the battle. And that's the most satisfying thing that you can do in Warriors outside of just, you know, the whole hack and slash thing. I think it's very satisfying and fun if you are able to, for example, change your weapon a little bit, or change your strategy a little bit, or change your lineup a little bit, and as a result, you end up with a much better result in battle. Like, everything just goes so much smoother, and that's the most satisfying prep, I think. But it needs to be the time spent needs to be on thinking what the best moves are, how you can change your things. It needs to be within your power to change significantly. So the preps need to be effective, time-wise, and needs to be a little bit obvious about like what a good idea would be. Like, needs not to like super big brain about it. I guess the big brain solutions can be satisfying, but it doesn't need to be like a super logical puzzle. It needs to be, if I exchange my archer for a lance user and then send them this way, it'll be much better. And similarly, if a certain meal helps with that in some way, you know, all the better. But generally, the Three Houses monastery isn't that deep for the most part, so that's why I think it might not be for Fire Emblem Warriors. Let's move on to the next one. FE3 Hope's story will progress in episodes. Clearing the main quests in the war map are required to advance the storyline. Subquests are optional to play, but will give more rewards, so characters can prepare better for later battles. So I'm not sure if these are these subquests, if they are within a battle, or if they're just like side stories or side quests. It sounds like they're side quests that are like different scenarios, basically. Let me see here. So you got Eastern Garrick Mock, prepare for the conquest of la. Clear a path for the conquest of Garrick Mock by defeating the Church of Seer's army. This looks like a pretty essential one. Does it say anywhere? So you got like this capture reward, for example, right? 30 points recover +1. So this sounds like an extra reward in the battle, like a ranked bonus almost. Like if you kill 2k enemies, you get an S rank or whatever. Oh, I guess this is the S rank reward. You get a bullion. And if you capture, I don't know. Either way, multiple objectives, always good. Always have more objectives than just a little bit. Warriors 1, its only real side objectives in most battle is killing a bunch of enemies. It's generally what it comes down to, both for ranking and for Anna's mementos. So I really hope they spice it up, and it looks like they will spice it up a little bit. So I'm happy about that. That looks good to me. So this one is like a war map. Is that the obligatory one? Yeah, war map are required to advance the storyline. Is this an optional one then? I only see a war map here. One of your absolute favorite songs. I can't hear them, unfortunately, but I'm glad you like it. It's like a 60-minute medley that I made. Or that I compiled, I should say. I didn't make any of this music. I wish I did. Operations for war now complete. The Imperial Army Advisor. First time reward. Oh, this is just the first time you beat it or first time you play it. Interesting. Well, either way, optional objectives are always good, I think. Like, if you don't want to do it, don't do them. That looks like the whole thread. Let me see if there's anything new on Seren's Force real quick on this little thread over here. Preferred classes. These are just preferred classes. There could be multiple per unit, which, you know, good. It's probably units that the classes in the same line. It's not super deep here. I don't think there's anything here that I can really analyze from here. Like, they're basically just summarizing the thing. Oh, morale is here. Hold up. Let me see this. The scene with Mercedes and Dimitri shows that dining together is back on 3 houses with the same effects, different meals giving different certain benefits, but with a new additional bonus of raising morale that allows characters to deal more damage. Morale is a mechanic in Warriors games where, depending on the game, individual morale and your full army morale can affect stats and how competent your AI and armies are. Oh, never mind. I was a little worried there. I was like, wait, is the morale, like the motivation system, actually in this game confirmed? But they're talking about doing more damage, so it's more about the buffs than anything else. Rusted sword confirmed. Oh, that'd be funny. Just beat people down with a rusted sword. You know, just to flex on them. Yeah, exactly, Warriors. S rank in Warriors 1 is like, kill 2k enemies, do it fast, and don't die. Or like, don't almost die, basically. And that's... You say that's like fair at times, but it really isn't. Like, it's always these 3. And sometimes it's only 2 of the 3 because the third one is irrelevant. Like, for example, if a battle only lasts 7 minutes, no matter what, then the time thing is not there. That's basically it. Like, it's more monotonous than you're letting on, and it's already pretty monotonous the way you're saying it. Yeah, we can zoom in on his thing, but, you know, I think you guys get the point. But, I mean, we think this is Casper's dad. We think this is Holst. I think Holst is like 99% confirmed, and this one is a little less confirmed, because, like, sure, the hair color is the same, but sometimes people have the same hair color and they're not family. It's kind of rare, though, so I'm just going to assume it's Casper's dad or brother fighting Holst, and we'll see why, but it's probably a fun scenario. Anyway, that is my wrap-up for the news, so let me know what you think. I'm probably going to upload this separately on YouTube at some point, so if I'd actually end up doing that, then let me know what you think in the comments. And if you're in the chat right now, also let me know what you think. Or we're going to play some Warriors after I close my curtains, turn on the lights, because it's getting dark where I'm at.